Friday. It's Friday. And we're live. How grateful we are to join you. It's Friday and we are live this morning. We're waiting for other platforms to join us.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds.
Listen, countdown. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. And it's Friday. Good morning. It's Friday, March 20th, 2020. Let me make sure I got that correct. 20. So there are 320, something good for us. It's Friday, March 20th. It's day 5 of quarantine. And just last night we learned that California has asked its people to stay home all day. Good morning. Good morning. So with all this quarantining going on and people are staying home and getting stir crazy, I just got a text from my good friend Wade McCree, who is a former judge and who has had to stay home because of this. And he says that it's driving him to happen. Should practice mindfulness. There's some things that we can do to minimize and mitigate. Listen to my previous podcast. We talked about 100 things you can do while you're on quarantine. Now, most of us are not going to do 100, but there are some things we can do that is designed to mitigate the cabin fever that we're all going to feel. We had to stay indoors. If you can do what the Italians, right? Right? So just keep it moving, right? Just keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. So today I want to talk about how our minds are the perfect antidote to anxiety. And I think we can all agree on that. Even in the scriptures in Philippians, it tells us clearly, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, make your requests known to God and the peace of God. So kind of invoking the peace. Well, apparently when God said that, the philosophers also picked up that thread. And there's one philosopher in particular whose writings I've become familiar with, Seneca, who is suggesting that maybe we're a little bit too anxious. And he said this, to our own peril, and I'm paraphrasing, to our own peril, we imagine the worst. And sometimes what we imagine is worse than what we actually experience. Isn't that the truth? And it's kind of hard today in our 24-hour news cycle to not imagine the worst. I mean, the way the news media has been, I must admit, I'm off it. I don't watch it because the way they have been depicting this whole thing, it's like Armageddon. It's like the apocalypse. That is not to say that there isn't responsible reporting in conveying information that is necessary. Sorry, that is not to say we're not to be compliant with any safety measures and public safety addresses that are delivered. That is not to say, but this depicting as if this is the apocalypse has drove people crazy. I mean, I had one of our donors to the Exodus Foundation reached out to me last weekend, and we went to her house. And I kid you not, she has 30 years worth of toilet paper and hand towel. And her husband was saying, don't go shopping. And she said, yeah, I still need some more stuff. And he's like, you don't need any more. He just went numb after a while. It's better not to say anything because nothing is going to stop her. How many people does she have in her home? 2. Does her children and grandchildren live with her? No. So who is she buying all this stuff for? There's so much stuff in the house that she has it all packed up. The cupboards are already apparently all packed out. So they're packed up on the dining table in the kitchen, the entire kitchen cupboards, no surface. But I kid you, who is she buying all that food for? Because just listening to the media, it hyped it over and over. And that's what's driving empty shelves. They are restocking the shelves. I did go back to the grocery store and I did see they have restocked the shelves overnight. But if you don't get there early in the morning, you're not going to get anything. Toilet paper is still in short supply. I don't understand that, right? And so if you continue to listen to it, it's going to drive you crazy. Let me tell you what happened to me. So yesterday, why? Because the updates kept coming in on the phone. And then when it got to the point where it's 336 cases in good old Michigan, right? And 63 cases in Detroit. And this was me after a while. I found myself putting my fingers right here in the middle of my head. Come on, let's all do that. It was sort of a reflex. Do this. Put your fingers right here. You know what this is? This is your frontal lobe. This is your executive function. This is where we think and make decisions. What the news media has been doing is making us think from the back of the head, where it's the fight or flight situations. So we're making fight or flight decisions from here when we should be making them from here. So if things were normal, what would we do? If we were able to think normally, what would we do? We would sit down, assess the situation. We would look at how much stuff we have in our basements and garages and in the freezers and in the storage shed out back. You took all the storage stuff out there to pack more toilet paper and stuff in there. And you would say, this too shall pass. I'm covered. I have enough. Then you would examine your faith and you would determine that either I believe or I don't. Then you would examine yourself and you say, if I have an underlying conditions, here's what I shouldn't be doing. So if you have respiratory illnesses or you're prone to heart trouble, right? And if you're prone to asthma and other stuff that you have pre-existing conditions, then what would you do? You will stay home. You'll follow the quarantine. You will take your vitamins and you will help. One of the things I have found over the years that help my state of mind is taking vitamins. At the times in my life when I was challenged the most, when I was being beaten up, I took vitamins. I exercised. I found that those things helped me to cope with the situations I was in, right? I also learned to drink a lot of water. It helps to calm me down. So instead of running to the refrigerator, because we're all gonna about to ruin our summer bodies that we have worked hard all winter for, we're about to ruin them by running to the refrigerator every time we hear a newscast because we're thinking from the back of our heads, the rear lobe, instead of from here. So when you are watching the news or the governor is about to give a press conference, for the love of God, don't watch it. Wait for it to be filtered back to you because it's going to hype your anxiety. I don't watch the White House press briefings. It hypes my anxiety because it makes me wonder about stuff, right? And you can't help it because it's going to come. When you start seeing things like the State Department is issuing travel advisories that Americans, wherever you are to come home, that tells you they know something, right? That means the military has said, we're about to shut this bad boy down. So if you want to, either you stay where you are for an indefinite period or you come home now. They didn't say come home in the next 48 hours. They said come home now, right? When you see things like that, just do this. Touch the frontal lobe of your brain. Assess yourself. You start thinking, well, all my family members are here. I checked in on my parents, checked in on my grandparents, checked in on my kids. My kids are coming home from college. The colleges are now requiring that students within a certain uh, mileage leave, except for international students who obviously can't fly. And those who live in other states that it might be more difficult for them to, and you originate from Louisiana or California, the colleges are like, okay, you're going to stay 300 miles. You need to go home now, right? So when you do that, tap this. When you see the mayor of your city or a public health official in your city starts giving, tap the frontal lobe of your brain. What you're doing is telling, this is where I think, this is where my decision making powers are, and this is how I'm going to think. Your mind is the perfect balance to anxiety. We will not be able to help it because this is going to ramp up. Let's just be clear. This is not one of those situations that we are imagining that is going to get worse. You are perhaps right in not imagining it's going to get worse. This is out of our control. It's out of my control. It's out of your control. You know what we can control? This. Control how you think about it. So do mind numbing things. Watch Netflix. Work on a project that you haven't touched in a while. Read a book. Do crossword puzzles. And the last thing I want you all to do is exercise. I know you can't go to the gym, but before they created gyms, we all had bodies that we could work on. So go up and down the stairs in your home, right? That's exercise. Go up it 10 times. After a while, you'll realize, my God, I'm really more out of shape than I thought I was, right? Go up and down the stairs, right? Pick up weights. If you don't have weights, pick up a gallon of water or a gallon of juice. Lift two of them all at the same time, right? I have weights in my home, so I make sure I walk around with weights. I work out Nowadays, it's been twice a day because we need to mitigate the anxiety, right? I remember when my mom died, for years, for quite a few years now, I have always worked out in the mornings, done yoga stretches and, all that stretching and so on, and hold my breath. I had no idea how it was helping me cope through the grief that I was going through, right? And I didn't realize it until I went to therapy, and my therapist was asking me, what methods are you using to cope? And when I mentioned it, she said, perfect, right? So you have no idea how much exercise can help you, right? You're in your backyard getting it in. Absolutely. So you should put that out on your social media feed so your neighbors, uh, your neighbors can all. What if we all did that, right? And we all have a mass sessions. Don't go to each other's homes. You just stay in your home and watch and participate. Don't watch. Participate. Don't be a spectator. Be a participator, right? So using mindfulness exercise, practice meditation. Have you sat still for a while? Just take a deep breath and be still. Even when the mayor has called a press conference, tune it out if you have to. They're going to tell you what the mayor said afterwards. Don't listen to it. If the president has a press conference, don't listen. If the governor has a press conference, by all means, shut it off. Because then you know it's something. If the governor is going to call a press conference, she has something to say. You don't want to hear that. Right? Tune it out because the filtering will come. And learn to sit still, take a deep breath, and exhale. We also need to watch our diet, right? We went and bought a lot of snacks. So some of us are binging on chips and stuff and cookies and all that kind of stuff. Watch your sugar intake because sugar keeps you hyped, right? And you don't want to be more hyped and agitated than you need to be. And when it feels like it's getting to you, just tap this. Tap this. You're going to remember this. It's going to remind you to think from here. Learn to develop a filter process, just like you do at work. When you are a crisis manager at work, most of us in our roles, what do leaders do? Message that being a leader means that you're what? You're a crisis manager. The only time we need you, we're going to hear from you is when there is a crisis. So we have to think on our feet, right? And when and something happens and you're required to find a solution, what do? You stop, you listen, you assess, you evaluate, and then you trust your instincts to make a decision. Do the same thing in this process. Don't let the media be what this tells you what to do because they're in the business to make money. They're driving advertisers. They're making money fists over dollars because they're hyping all these empty shelves that make people go line up at the big box stores even more. So the big box stores are paying them because they're making money off it. They're hyping, make sure you keep your surfaces clean, and they're displaying the products you should use. So Clorox and Procter and Gamble is making a boatload of money. Meanwhile, your anxiety level is from here to here. You're going to find if you're not careful, you end up with heart palpitations and anxiety attacks because you're so hyped. Breathe. Trust me, breathe. The ancient philosopher Seneca said this, and I want to just put this into context for you. There are more things likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Think about that. We suffer more in our imagination than in reality. While you're listening to these constant newscasts and updates, you are like, oh my God, worst case scenario, oh my God. That's all you're saying to yourself. That's fight or flight. Don't think on that. The Bible instructs us very clearly. Think on these things, things that are good, things that are pure. Reflect, evaluate, assess your needs. My needs for shelter are confirmed. My needs for transportation are confirmed. My need for food is safe. My need for water is safe, right? Uh, your connection is bad. Switch over to YouTube. Twitter is iffy, right? But switch over to YouTube. It's a more stable platform and we don't have this kind of stuff, right? Uh, think about assess your needs. My need for water is confirmed. My need for electricity. And then recognize that there are some things that are outside of your control. For instance, if you woke up this morning and you have a child in college in California, you would have gotten on the phone and told them to come home as soon as possible, because they have said stay in place. If they're in college and college is going to end in a few weeks, according to Dr. Fauci, we are going to be shelter in place for 8 weeks. Then you call your child and say, "We have food at home. I don't want you wandering the streets or having to join a soup kitchen line. Come home." Right? So you assess your needs. What are my needs? Are my basic needs met? Don't worry about it. I know many people have lost their income, have lost their jobs. I am aware. The state's unemployment insurance application process is delayed, not because of any other reason, but so many people. Unemployment claims went up in the state of Michigan 560%. It's so bad that the federal government, imagine that, the current administration is asking states not to report their job loss numbers. Why? Because it's going to make them look bad. They're looking at this as if this is a political spectacle when this is a major crisis. People won't be able to pay their rent. They won't be able to pay their car notes. They won't be able to buy food. They won't be able to live. Let it be. Deep breath. Manage what you can manage. This is what you have in front of you. This is what you can manage. And when we emerge from the crisis, then we're going to think about things we can do after the crisis. So if something like this were to happen again, then we know how to live. The thing is, we have been spoiled because we've never had a crisis like this in our lifetime. Now we realize how good we had it. Previous generations, they lived through war. They lived through pandemics. They had malaria, they had typhoid, right? They had all kinds of fevers. They had yellow fever. They had the plague, the bubonic plague. They had plagues that were induced by sanitation or lack of sanitation, right? Previous generations had polio to think about. Previous generations had crises to live through that they had to overcome. They had one war after another. Just think about it. There was World War One, but 30 years later, there was World War Two. Think about that. So you're born and you grew up in wartime, and then 30 years later, there you are in a war again. And then after that, there was the Korean War. And then after that, there was the Vietnam War. So the generations before, they had stronger coping mechanisms than we did. We have been we born, people born after 1955 and so on. We basically had it good after World War II. We didn't have anything major stuff to worry about. We've had it good. We were worried about other stuff. We had other things. Now it pales in comparison to this. This is our lifetime. This is the fight and the crisis of our lifetime. And we are better equipped. A generation ago, they didn't have digital news. They couldn't work from home digitally. They didn't have unemployment insurance protections. You see what I mean? Don't listen to the news about the senators who sold off stock in healthcare when they had a closed door briefing. When they realized stuff was about to go south, they sold their stock off and made money. They're going to pay the price for that, because that's going to be some moral and ethics complaints later on. They're still going to pay the price for it, right? Focus on what you can manage right now, right where you are. Don't imagine the worst case scenario. Let's play it by ear. You have already assessed your needs. You have already evaluated how much you have, right? And while, yes, some of us, while we were shopping and buying stuff, yeah, we had family members who made fun of us, probably even friends who laughed at us stockpiling stuff. Well, time has come. So now that you have done that, that was you thinking ahead, using your executive function at the frontal lobe of your brain to think. And now that you've done that, now you know. So now that you have that organized, now is the time to sit back and watch it play out and breathe. Practice the same things that we're all doing. We have always washed our hands. We'll wash them a little bit more long, wash them longer, right? We have always used Lysol and so on, spray more, right? This looks like a germ kind of thing, like it's just filled with germs or whatever. It just seems to be in the air. It's airborne. It looks like it's airborne to me. It's amazing to me that people who are contracting it now didn't go anywhere, or perhaps didn't even have contact with someone who was tested positive. It's just airborne now, right? It needed a host and it came in. Don't think about that. You use Lysol and other germ reducing agents in our homes. Think about that, right? And every day, develop a space, have dedicated time of day when you wake up and you practice this meditation. I waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, it usually means pray. So I pray in that time, I meditate on good things. I ask whatever it is, and it keeps me calm throughout that day. Then I get up and do my stretches and lift my weights, and sometimes I do on the spot jogging. Yeah, I run in place, right? And you'd be surprised when you do stuff like that how it helps you to relax. Do you realize that for years I never understood why some of us resorted to drugs and alcohol to give us a high? Because I was a runner in my earlier years. I know it doesn't show, but it's okay. And as a jogger, I used to get a high when I had finished my run. It was so euphoric. I mean, it was like, oh my God, it just felt like you were floating, right? Kind of orgasmic, even, because it felt like you were just floating. And I could not understand, if you can do this just by running, why do you need drugs and alcohol to induce that feeling? So while you're home, practice running in place. If it means that you go out in your backyard and run around your backyard, then do it. Do a few laps. It's going to help you to cope. And if you live in your own home, you have a space in your home where you can do running in place, then do it. It's going to help you to reduce the anxiety. If you live in an apartment and you can't run because you're on the first floor or the 15th floor, and the folks below would cry out, then go up and down the stairs in the stairwell. Just go up and down the stairs, walk up and down the stairs with weights, and after a while, you'd be amazed how you feel. Now, if everybody in the apartment building starts doing that, it might have a problem, but I trust that some of us won't, right? And if you live in an apartment building, you need to think on contingencies, have that plan worked out so that you don't become anxious about it. You know what I mean? You don't become anxious if something were to happen, what would I do? Have that thought out. And now that you've thought that out, you sit still and don't ask yourself, what am I going to do if they say we have to stay home? If they say we have to stay home, guess what? There's nothing you can do about that. You might as well just heal to it and stay home. If you have to make arrangements with your mortgage company, tell them from now. I mean, I believe the utilities in Michigan are actually not helping people out, which is kind of remarkable. So later on, I'm going to start a Twitter campaign. Y'all join with me? And we're going to ask the utilities, the water and the utilities in Michigan, the DTE and so on, that they're going to have to be more mindful of people and be considerate. So if I started, can you all start it? Join with me in asking them to be considerate of people who are not working. It is terrible. There are people who work in retail. The malls are shut. Most of the stores are closed. And there's no one going into the malls anyway, so there's no traffic. So the malls are closed. What are people to do? Right? The state is providing some relief. Some people are saying they get $64. Well, that can't pay anybody's rent. It might be able to help sustain them by buying food. So we need to ask the state and city governments from just start a Twitter campaign that the mayor needs to stop enforcing evictions. They need to tell landlords, we're not going to enforce evictions. We're not even going to hand them out. We're not going to deliver them. We're not going to do anything. And if you show up to do it, we're going to arrest your fat self, right? And let people be. I'm serious. They need to back off and leave people alone, right? This is a crisis, and it takes all of us to survive. Don't hype people's anxiety up by them having to worry on top of childcare. They've lost their income. They can't take care of themselves. And now they're going to have to worry about this, right? Come on. We can be, uh, it's going to help, but how much can it help, right? And the rest of us need to be considerate. Can I just ask us to do that? I see people on Facebook and Twitter making fun of others like, I'm so glad I have this. Stop, because you don't know when you can lose it. Trust me. You don't know when that kind of stuff can go away. Be compassionate to others. If you see someone on Facebook and somehow they're saying they can't make it, why don't you inbox them and just inbox them and say, look, I can help you out a little bit. Uh, Send me a link, or what's your Cash App name? I'll just send you something. Do you see what I'm saying? Be considerate and be human. No one has to know. You don't have to go take a screenshot and say, I helped this person. Just say, if you're struggling, I'm going to send you a couple, right? And if they keep asking you after that, then you can block them. But at least be considerate and be human. You see where I'm coming from? It happens to all of us. You help someone and then they just keep coming back to you because you become their source. No, I'm not your source. God is your source. God told me to help you, so I'm helping you, right? And donate to other organizations that are providing services, right? I am one of them. My company, my organization is the Exodus Foundation. ExodusFoundation.com. Just look us up, the ExodusFoundation.com. Just go to our page, and right there on the homepage, you can make a donation so we can continue to help others who can't help themselves, right? This is a time when we come together. This is a time when we expose the best of us. The last big thing we had happen to us was 9/11. We thought the world was going. You remember 9/11 when they shut down everything, and for 48 hours, it was only 48 hours, right? It was only 48 hours, right? Thank you, right? It was only 48 hours that they shut down flights and so on, but it felt like forever. It felt like America was under attack. It felt like we all were. And all of a sudden, our true colors came out, red, white, and blue. This is the time, red, white, and blue. We're not just red. We're not just blue. We are red, white, and blue. It's all of us. I know some of us are not going to go near certain eateries. Don't join in the madness, right? You don't have to. Just don't join in the madness. Don't contribute to labeling and labeling people by names. We didn't like it when they called us all kinds of names. We don't do it to others. Even though they never stood with us in our fights for civil rights, that's okay. Perhaps that's why we are the leaders, right? So become the leader and demonstrate and show them we're not going to join in this madness. I don't feel comfortable visiting establishments where more than 10 people are. A couple of days ago, I wanted to go into a local grocery store to buy some specialized kind of foods. I needed some eucalyptus oil and oil of peppermint, right? I put a little in my tea, it helps with the bronchia, right? And I went there and they were too full for me. I'm like, too many people in one place in such a small capacity. I'll wait for another time, right? See, similarly, just do something like that, right? And breathe. So I'm going to practice breathing. You ready? We're going to practice some breathing exercises. So you pick up your phone, and all of a sudden they're saying, no, 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 the world is going to hell in a handbasket. This is you. Instead of saying, oh my God, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. Oh, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. Put the phone down, face down, sit down, and breathe. Take a deep breath. Hold it and count to 10, count to 20, 30. For me, I count to 30, sometimes 60. Just hold your breath, count, and then breathe. And do that as many times as you need to mitigate and minimize the anxiety that we all feel, right? It's Friday morning, and I wanted this to be as light as possible, but I want to leave you with this thought. Uh, is not This is Seneca, the philosopher I told you about. He said, what I advise you to do is not be unhappy by the crisis, right? But think that has come upon you and waiting for things yet to come. Don't think about that. Don't think about that. Don't think about, oh my God, if California ordered shelter in place. Oh my God, Michigan is next. Oh my God, Iowa is next. Oh my God, New York is next. No, just sit there quietly and say, I am all right. It's very important that your mind and your spirit hear you say it's going to be all right. If you're going to imagine anything, imagine what's on the other side of this crisis, that in a few weeks, in a few months, by the end of the summer, we're all going to have summer bodies. We're all going to be hot girl summer. I'm just leaving you with something to motivate you. We're going to have hot girl summer, hot boy summer, hot body summer. And even if the summer, because we know summer in Michigan is challenged and it passes quickly, and even if we miss summer, we can still pose in our, like we're at the pool. We can still do that and take our pictures and tag each other in them and say, hey, still got my body going on, right? You got to motivate yourself. Don't focus so much on the death and destruction and the fact that we have lost it. There's so many stories of things going bad, but they don't tell us enough of the stories of things going good. What about the story of the person who went to dinner, had a $90 bill, and left $9,400 in tips for everybody in their favorite restaurant. Can you believe it? She counted up $1,500 in cash and then $9,400, the rest of it $7,000 on their credit card for tip. And guess what? It worked because the manager says for all the people who were in the who worked in the restaurant, the dishwasher, the cook, and so on, it averaged out to $300 per person. That means they sat there, calculated it out, and said, if I can stem the tide of this for one group of people, then how many more? I see celebrities singing songs about this and that, and I'm like, why you don't go in your pockets and bring money out? For all the years that we supported them by watching their movies, downloading their music, going to their games, all those years, why aren't they giving money to help people pull out of this? They're so mean, but they're going to sing a song to hell with you. Some of you all, I'm not going to watch your films anymore. I'm watching all of them to see how they're helping people through this crisis. And I'm making note. And if they are not stepping up to the plate and helping ordinary people who bought their music and watched their movies, then I have no business for them after this is over. I'm done with them. So I am watching. I think you should do the same. If they're not going to dig deep, in other countries, in South Korea, South Korean celebrities got together and gave and gave and gave. They couldn't be on the front lines, but they gave money. Here, what are they doing? They're singing a song, but you're counting how much money you have that I helped you to get. Okay, well, sit down over there. You better be grateful for what you have, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not buying your music. I'm not streaming your music. I'm not downloading your music unless I see tangible proof that you have helped somebody else through this crisis. It's time for them to give back. It's time for them, when you were busy downloading their music for $1.99 or 99 cents and streaming it all day, you were helping their revenue stream. It's time for them to come back and donate $20, $200, $1,000. I'm going to give something that is going to help. Put aside $10,000 and say, I'm going to split it into $200 increments. Everybody gets something. Do you see what I mean? It's just the craziest thing. This is a time when we bleed red, white, and blue. We're American, and that's what we do. We help one another. We help one another. The government is doing their part over there. The city and state are going to do their part. The rest of us need to come clean. Check on your neighbors, check on your friends, check on people. Y'all need something? Let me just drop something off real quick. I have enough. I have more than enough. Y'all need something? Here's $50 to take you through the crisis. Somebody says, I ran out of gas. I can't buy any more gas. I can't find gas anywhere. Here's something to take you through the crisis. That's how the satisfaction that you're going to get from helping someone else is going to mitigate your anxiety. Because your anxiety is not just for you. Your anxiety is also for others, because the police are relaxing their policing. So the rest of us are like, so that means people think they can just jump over a fence and come and attack me. What if I just give some people something? That's going to help minimize your anxiety, right? I keep looking at the time because I have to watch the time because they have me on a timer because I talk, right? But these are just some of the things that we can do. And one of the greatest strategies that you can employ is tell yourself it's going to be all right. And you control what comes to you, control the thoughts that come to you, control what you watch. So make sure you fill up on Netflix and Hulu. Like yesterday, when all the craziness was going on, I found a wonderful program showing Hulu, Little Fires Everywhere. I was blown away. For about 3 hours, I watched every episode, and I kid you not, I was done. Right? I kid you not. I thank you. I kid you not. I was so done just watching it for 3 hours. I was like, man, I felt so good afterwards. It just took time off from all of the stuff. There are other shows on podcasts. And if you want something to make you really fired up, go listen to some of my previous podcasts. I'm on iHeartRadio. Most of us have iHeartRadio app downloaded to our phones. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, right? I think on the Google devices, it works differently. You have to go into the Google Play Store and look for Google Podcast. Download Google Podcast and then look for me, Down to Earth with Harriet Kamak. Or even if you just look for me by name, Harriet, Harriet, Kamak, Cammock, and look for me, and you'll find that I talk about some of this stuff. and you'll find that you'll be inspired and you'll be motivated, right? And help out your homegirl. Right? I'm homegirl. I'm your homegirl. You know me. I'm right here in your home. I come to you and I talk about these things because we're all in this together. At the end of the day, this is about all of us. We're all in this together, and it is going to take us to pull us through. Yes, it is going might affect some of us, but how would I go about dealing with social anxiety? Well, here's what I would do. Social anxiety is dealing with all the stuff that is going on around you. Well, you can turn off social media, because if anybody been on Facebook, this Facebook preachers got it going on, y'all. And if you have a phone, a smartphone, download an app called TikTok, TikTok. It is going to make you, it is hilarious what kids are coming up with on TikTok. It's better than Comedy Central. I kid you not. It will it will mitigate all your anxiety. My kids introduced me to it, and I'm laughing thinking about some of the stuff that I came across. Yesterday I spent a full hour going through TikTok. I kid you, without realizing it. I was just like, oh my God. I was just, by the end of it, I laughed. Dealing with it is simply by how you choose to deal with it. Again, when the updates come, assess and evaluate. Where are you? I am all right. I am fine. I have the resources that I need. If you need resources, go to your state's website. Your state's website is Grand Central for any kind of resources that you need, and your city. So there is help available. That's the first thing we need to understand, because we tend to think, oh my God, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. No, the sky is not going to fall because the US military is going to hold up the sky. Can we just say amen to that? Just nod your head and say, them boys got it. They got it, right? And how do you know they have it? Because this week we learned that the Department of Defense is going to release 5 million face masks. So them boys always had this stuff, and they had ventilators, right? The second thing is Ford and GM say they can make ventilators if necessary. Then yesterday, Tesla says they can make ventilators and deliver it to hospitals. That alone is going to what? Mitigate your anxiety. Because some of us do have issues. There are some of us who have underlying health issues. And you're like, if something were to happen and I go into the hospital, does that mean that I'm gone? No, that means there is help available. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in the United States of America. They are prepared. This government, the administration just didn't know the extent to which they are prepared. The Department of Defense has everything that we're going to need. They just don't want us to know, because that's not something they do. They save those things for wartime. They save that for stuff they use overseas. They just never knew they would ever need it for homeland. And they don't talk about what they do. They don't tell us what they do. But we know that we live in a country that has these resources. So stop. Americans, stop. We have resources. You realize that we have unemployment. Most countries of the world don't have these kinds of protections, y'all. It would bankrupt them to do this. We have that, right? So if your landlord is not going to be considerate, start calling the state attorney general. Right here in Michigan, we have one who is a Rottweiler. I would not go in a ring with her. No, I'm staying on her good side over here. Give her a shout out and just stay over here, because she does not mince words. So call your state attorney general if you're not getting any help, right? Tell them your employer is not cooperating with the unemployment claims. So there are ways in which you can think about this. Do you see what I mean? Think from here instead of worrying about it. And then I know you're going to go to the store and the shelves are empty. It's not doomsday, because we have supply chains. The country is organized. We don't live in a disorganized country. They imagined a scenario like this would happen. The stuff comes into the ports on the west coast of the country, but it's distributed. We have connection points in the middle of the country. They just don't tell us that, because we don't need to know that. We only need to know we get up, go to work, and work and stuff, right? So they have stuff in the middle of the country for the people who live in the middle of the country, for the people who live in the southern part of the country, and the people who live in the eastern part of the country. It might just take longer to get to you, but it will. We have enough toilet paper. We have enough food. We have enough water. And for those of us who live in Michigan, the Detroit River is down there. We'll probably just go get some water and boil it. I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever touch that or whatever. But do you see what I'm saying? And stay in touch, connect with real people. I imagine some of us are alone. Stay in touch, find a support group on social media that help. Reach out if you need help. There are mental health hotlines all over the state for us to call if you feel like you are not five folks crazy. Call the mental health hotline. They are going to help you. You're not alone. And that's the most important thing. You are not alone. If you find that you can't help yourself and you live alone, and maybe you're not even disabled, but you don't have a support, you have no family nearby, get in touch with a Facebook group, right? Or just start a conversation on Facebook. Hey, y'all, I live alone and it's just me. I'm not inviting rapists or anything over, but this is just me. And find something to watch if you have cable, right? PBS has some good programs going. If all you have is basic cable, but if you can, here's a trick. Y'all ready for this? Start a free trial of Hulu and Netflix. They give like a 15-day trial. You didn't hear that from me. Just start a free trial and watch what you want to watch for 15 days. Then you go start another free trial with a new, with Hulu or something like that, right? It's going to help you and watch shows that you want to watch. Shows that are too long, but you couldn't watch them before, right? And call someone. Reach out and call someone. Don't just stay there by yourself trying to cope. Call someone, right? I know I've often wondered what happens to folks who are not mobile and who have to get around and who have to get to the store. I know many of you rely on Amazon to ship stuff to you, but with supply chains disrupted as much as they are right now, stuff might be on delay. Well, that's a time to reach out and talk to someone. Okay? Don't just sit there. We're all here and we're all in this together. And despite our, we are human. Underneath it, we are human because we each look at each other and say, but for the grace of God, go I. My time is up. My name is Harriet Kemmick. This has been Down to Earth. Join me on Sunday morning. We're going to preach like it's going on a star. Join me on Sunday morning as we continue to bring you more programming that will help us all to make it through this quarantine. It's day 5. See, we didn't think we could make it, but here we are. It's day 5, right? So tonight, Friday, today is a Friday, right? Tonight, are we going to binge watch? We're going to binge watch some Netflix, right? Binge watch Netflix. Lots of stuff on there. I'm amazed. I am just going to binge watch Netflix tomorrow. More of the same. Go outside, take a break, have a structure. Go outside and take a break. Come back in and watch some more. And then join me Sunday morning, or we're going to preach this baby hot and just focus on your summer body. Yeah, I know you're sitting there saying, but Harriet, I'm in a wheelchair. So I still have a summer body. Lift some weights, man. Lift it. Lift it. Do some exercises for the arms. Yeah. And lift the weights. Sit out there. Do that. You can do some stuff. Move around. And even if you can't do anything else, can you move your face? Practice smiling. Look at me. If you look at me long enough, you're going to smile. And I know that if I stare at you long enough, I'm going to make you smile. I don't care how hard you think you are. If I look at you long enough, I guarantee you're going to smile, right? Right? Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. Have a great Friday. We come back on Sunday morning when we do our group therapy for all of us. It's group chat. And we just get off and say what we want to say and feel good. And then when we're done, we're like, I got that out of me. I got it out of me. And if nothing else fails, just go dancing. Just watch like Dirty Dancing and all, and just get up and find yourself moving and doing stuff. I'm probably going to do some of that when I'm done, just to get this party started. Right? It's getting started. It's hot. Y'all remember that? I'm probably going to do that on Monday. We'll just have a dance session, and just play some dance music. I'm serious. You can't just sit there and make the stuff get to you. It's getting started. It's hot. It's getting started in here. It's getting started. It's hot. See, I made you smile. How about that? You're going to go off into this lady, it's so crazy, but I got you to smile. So now you don't have to worry about anything. You're like, because after you do that, you release the happy endorphins and you feel better. Yeah. And you're like, this too shall pass, right? Be blessed, everybody. The best is yet to come. Thank you so much. See you soon. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much. Be blessed. It's getting started. It's hot. It's getting started in here. It's getting started. It's hot.